So, I'm going to tell you a story about what happened to me a little while back. Just from how that evening started, I should have known there was going to be some ish. Nevertheless, my name's Sarah. I'm from Southwest Atlanta, and my parents are the owners of a small convenience slash grocery store that's been a part of the community since I was a little girl. When I started college, it was the perfect job for me to make some cash and help out the family business. It was amazing because the only thing that I needed to do was focus on school, running track, and then, of course, I was making some cash and helping out the family business. My parents worked at the store less and less as they were getting older and wanted to get the ball rolling on their retirement. They did, of course, keep ownership of the store, but they did not plan on working there day in and day out anymore, and I do not blame them. They hired a reliable team to do that for them, and I was a part of that team. It was my parents' policy that at least two people needed to work in the store at all times. I would usually come in on the weekends and work the morning shift, but this particular Saturday, this dude, Tristan, was not going to be able to make it in, so I was going to be filling in for him. He was a closer, so I'd be working from like 4 to 10 p.m. During the beginning of the shift, everything was cool. I was working with a woman named Debbie, and Debbie had been working there for like 2 years, and she was so cool. I knew it was going to be a good night. We both took turns running the cash register, stocking, cleaning, the usual. For the most part, everything was chill. We did have a couple of phone calls that came in, and someone kept hanging up, which was extremely annoying. I would pick up the phone, say the greeting, say my name, and they would just hang up. But other than that, everything was cool. It slowed down for a little while, and then a middle-aged man walked in with his head down. Me and Debbie greeted him from behind the counter, but he never even looked at us. We didn't make a big deal of it, we just continued talking. About 5 minutes went by, and we had noticed that the man had not come to the cash register. The store is not that big, and it usually doesn't take people long to shop, so that was a little weird. We looked at the cameras, and the man was standing at the end of one of the aisles, not moving, seemingly just looking into space. We watched for about 2 minutes, and he still did not move after that. I decided to call out to him to ask if he needed help with anything. He didn't answer me. I just assumed he was probably crazy or on drugs, but nevertheless, we felt a little bit on edge. A little while after I had asked the man if he needed any help, he resurfaced to the front of the store. He didn't have anything in his hand, and he was still just looking down at the floor. All of a sudden, he looked up before he walked out, and he gave me and Debbie this menacing look. We were like, what the hell? It was really creepy, but nevertheless, we were just glad he was gone. I decided to replay the cameras, and Debbie and I watched as it appeared that the man just came in, stood there for a very long time, and then left out. He didn't even take anything. We had no idea what his issue was, but we eventually just forgot about it as the night went on. 10 p.m. rolled around, and it was time to close the store. Debbie and I finished our closing duties, locked the doors, and started walking to our cars. We both made sure that we each got in our cars, we closed our doors, we looked at each other and waved. Debbie pulled out of the parking lot before me. I was so happy to be off because I had a date that night with the guy that I had been seeing. When I got in the car, I noticed that he had texted me, so I sat there for about 2 minutes texting him back. I put my phone down, and right when I was about to pull out of the parking lot, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing at the door, inside of the store, was the man from earlier. He was standing there staring me down. I was parked directly in front of the store. My mind could not process fast enough what I was seeing. I pulled out of the parking lot as fast as I could. I called 911 and I parked across the street, keeping my eyes on the store from a distance. And to my absolute horror, the man was still at the front door when I got across the street. He was literally just standing inside of the store. All I could think about was, how in the hell did he get in there? We closed and locked everything up. We checked everything. I even activated the security system. So how was this happening? I stayed on the phone with 911, and the woman told me that the officers were almost there. I looked down at my phone for a second to text my parents what was going on. I was still on the phone with 911. When I looked back up, the man was no longer at the door. Couple of seconds later, the officers pulled up and I drove back across the street with the officers. I stayed outside with two of them while the other two officers searched the store. A couple of minutes later, they came out and said that the store was completely empty and there was no sign of forced entry. They asked to review the cameras. Thank goodness we had cameras all over the store and they were excellent quality. I told the officers that Debbie and I had watched the same man on camera earlier. The officers and I started reviewing the videos. In the video, you can see me and Debbie lock up and walk out to our cars. We waited to see the moment when the man would appear at the door, but the cameras didn't show anyone. Now, the outside camera showed me driving fast out of the parking lot, but the man was nowhere to be found on the video, even though the cameras had a clear shot of the inside of the store and the outside of the store. The officers gave me a strange look. The worst part was when I went to show them the part of the video that Debbie and I watched with the man in the store earlier, just being weird, standing in front of the aisles, not doing or saying anything. Those videos did not show anything as well. Nothing was skipped. They did not see the man. It was as if he never existed. In the video, you could even see me walk from behind the counter when I asked the man if he needed any help. It appeared as if I was speaking to no one because when we looked at the cameras, no one was there. It was like I was talking to someone in thin air. At this point, I was crying and screaming. I was completely hysterical. I knew what I saw. I called Debbie and put her on speakerphone so the officers could hear her. I told her to tell them exactly what happened earlier with the man, and her story was identical to mine. At this point, my dad pulled up to the store and he got filled in with everything that had happened. The officers and I spoke to him. The man was never located and he never showed up on any of the videos. I had a hard time several weeks after that happened, and so did Debbie. Mentally, I just really didn't know how to process everything. Debbie and I knew what we saw. We finally accepted the only reasonable explanation: that we saw a ghost that night.